Hi, everybody. Welcome back to the Quantum Guide Show. Now, I'm having some sound issues, so I'm just wanting my friends in the live chat, please tell me if you were able to hear the introduction to the show, and also, can you hear me now? Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now? If you could let me know, I would really appreciate it because my settings were off this morning and they might still be off. Denise says I can hear you. Okay, and Denise, were you able to hear the introduction to the video? Just waiting to make sure you heard everything. I'm going to say hi, Pat. Nice to see you in the live. And yes, okay, everybody can hear me. All right, so I'm very excited to bring on a returning guest, a very special returning guest today, and that is Ryan Patrick Burns. And for those of you who aren't familiar with Ryan, he began researching the Uinta Basin and the mysterious Skinwalker Ranch years ago. But when his passion for answers could no longer be quenched, he left his corporate job in Salt Lake City and moved to the desolate and remote basin to investigate the ranch full time. Ryan now owns property overlooking the ranch, where he hosts the popular podcast Hero Paranormal, and has also written about his experiences investigating Skinwalker. Check out his links in the description. Ryan is a very thorough researcher into the paranormal realms, as well as how these overlap within the societal reality. All of the links are featured below in the description. Check me out, subscribe to my channels, leave me a comment, like my videos, and please do share my content with your friends. Now, for those of you who've already subscribed to my channel, could you do me a really big favor and go to my channel and see if you're still subscribed? Because I've been getting all kinds of notifications and comments from my listeners who are telling me that they somehow became unsubscribed. And I'd love it if you could just make sure that you are still subscribed to my channel. And I'm also happy to announce that you can join my YouTube channel to take advantage of my perks and to help me to grow my channel. So without further ado, I'm going to bring on Ryan. Ryan, can you hear me okay?
You sound good. Yes, absolutely.
Oh, awesome. So do you. Now, my other guest for today, Gary Michael May-McGill, couldn't make it last minute. So again, it's just you and I, Ryan. So I hope that we'll be able to come up with enough information. So I guess I'll just start off with asking you, how are you, Ryan? And what's new in your little corner of the world?
I am good. This time of year is always an interesting one, just because there's so much going on. You've got fall coming. You have
Mhm.
an interesting time of year where allegedly, the veil is a little thinner for things to come through, and things in the Uinta Basin of Utah are extremely active. And from what I understand, just about everywhere is pretty active. And I think it's going to get more active probably until about the end of December. But that's I'm doing great. How are you doing?
Oh, I'm doing pretty good, pretty good. We've got the changing of the seasons, all the leaves have turned, and it's really quite beautiful out there. I'm going to give a shout out to Pat. I'm not sure if I said Pat earlier or not. I'm getting old, Ryan. Oh my God, it's a bit scary. But anyway, the trees are all aflame, and the leaves are super dry and piles everywhere. My sunflowers are all finished. Everything is saying, okay, it's time for us to close up till spring. But I really like this time of year too because it's full of enchantment and wonder. And you're right, the veil is quite a bit thinner. And so what I love about when it gets colder is to go into introspection dealing with my own shit, that's more than enough to deal with. I just mind my own business when it comes to other people. They can do them and I'll do me, right? Um, thinking about the year, what went well, what it could have been improved on, what I could do differently next year, all that kind of stuff. So yeah, it's very, very interesting. So today, what seems to go quite well with October is to talk about cryptids. And when I was growing up, cryptids was not even a term, but we had, of course, what we call Bigfoot or Sasquatch. We also kind of believed in vampires. And we also, Wolfman, of course, that was before Dogman became popular. So I thought maybe we could start with those three. I grew up in the lower mainland of British Columbia. And oh my God, there's so many Sasquatch sightings. And on Vancouver Island, not just Sasquatch sightings, but women who were out camping. And yes, on Vancouver Island, it's quite common for women to go off camping on their own and do some soul searching or spiritual endeavors or whatever. And they have literally been chased running as fast as they could back to their vehicles because they were being chased by Sasquatch. So apparently, Sasquatch likes to add a little diversity to the gene pool every once in a while, but you can imagine how terrifying that would be. So there's many, many stories. I myself have never seen a Sasquatch eye to eye, but I do remember being in a place called Harrison Hot Springs, which is super well known for Sasquatch sightings. And I went for a walk in the woods, and although I did not see Sasquatch, I was acutely aware that I was being watched and that I wasn't alone. But I don't know what manner of being it might have been. I don't know. Um, Wolfman, we always kind of felt that that was a bit of a disease. You get bitten by a rabid animal and it makes you go all crazy. And then when the moon is full, he comes out as the wolf. And then, of course, vampires have intrigued me forever. And, when I see some of the life expectancies of some of these, what I'm going to call the parasite class, and how some of their relatives lived, and they even do comparisons where they take an image of the person now and an image of somebody 500 years ago, and they're absolutely identical. So I don't know if that is real, but nowadays we find out that these people with just unbelievable wealth, they do indeed take the blood of younger people. Often they hire people who are young and they take their blood. And I don't know if they infuse it, inject it, drink it, what, but it helps them to stay younger longer. So that's quite a lot I've sort of thrown into the mix here. And I know there's all kinds of other cryptids, and I want to get to some of the anomalies that you've seen on your property, Ryan. But I'm wondering if you have any comments about Sasquatch, Wolfman, vampires, the old school kind of cryptids that we've had with us forever.
Yeah, it's hard for me, and this is one of those things. It's really hard for me, and this is why I love to dive into research so much. Is it's hard for me to get behind something I haven't seen before. And so I'll go to all lengths to try and see something. And what you mentioned about this parasite class, and that's a great name for the class. And the belief that they drink the blood of youth and they cannibalize upon the youth and others. That's something I tried to prove to myself, and I did beyond a shadow of a doubt, which it was really scary. And I had a lot of people tell me, don't go do it. And I'll get into that. But the same is true of Bigfoot. I was mesmerized, as many are, with the Gimlin footage, the Gimlin Patterson footage, and a number of other takes people usually get of, it's usually quick and fleeting and blurry. And I just had to know. And so I joined a group, a very well-known group, on their first expedition in Utah. And myself and another researcher were trying to do it with no lights, nothing really except a thermal imager. And we were with another group, and they had a variety within the group. They had a variety of head cameras and thermal imagers that were hooked to cameras, and it was like a helmet deal. And people were switching the helmet as we went down this trail high in the Uinta Mountains of Utah. And they made us sign non-disclosure, so I'm going to be as brief and vague, but still get to the point. Long story short, we had wandered off ahead of this other group within this main group, and they were switching their cameras and they had to take off a helmet and move it to the next guy. And while they were doing that, myself and this other person were just sitting in the forest quietly with no lights on down the trail ahead of them. And sure enough, we heard something. We looked up in the thermal imager and we saw something. And it was very much what I would describe as a Sasquatch, maybe an adolescent Sasquatch. And it was only, Karen, maybe 12 feet away from these guys, and they didn't know it was there. So beyond a shadow of a doubt, it proved to me that these things exist.
Yeah, and we know they're very stealthy. So, I think and I think that is why they've been around for so long and why they've never been captured, for lack of a better word. A show that I shared with my grandchildren that are 6 is the movie called Harry and the Hendersons, and I just loved it. I loved it so much, but it gets into all the stereotypes about Bigfoot, but also that maybe Bigfoot isn't, necessarily what we think it is. But I've done quite a bit of research, and until I actually see something in my own reality, I don't necessarily believe it 100%. It doesn't mean it doesn't exist. In fact, I believe it does exist. But I can't say I'm an expert and I know about these, but I do remember being on Vancouver Island, and it was quite regular that women would come freaking out of the forest because Bigfoot showed up and wanted to do the hoochie coochie with them, which they were not happy about. So I wanted to flip back a little bit. Anyway, so it's really amazing that you guys saw something, but not everybody saw it. We see that with many things in the paranormal reality, even flying saucers and ETs and stuff. One group sees it and a couple of people see it as a spaceship. Someone else just sees it as a little light. So it's really hard to tell how much of this is those beings are able to affect our minds and how much isn't. I wanted to flip back a little bit to the whole vampire thing. Now, is that just to see if I understood you properly, Ryan? Is that what you did research into in the whole issue of human blood? And you may not want to go into great detail on this show on account of its risky biscuits, but I'm wondering if you could just elaborate a little more, or if it's not safe to, don't do it.
I'll do it. And
Okay.
the reason I'll do it is, okay, I had a gentleman on my podcast, and he alleged that he was a multi-generational member of a satanic bloodline in the Illuminati, and that he finally got out, and life wasn't easy. Getting out was not easy. And he alleged that there were locations back east and places, communities, where there were more of these, let's just call them Illuminati satanic bloodlines that were, multi-generational. And kind of as an entry point, you want to go like 7th, 8th, 9th generation. I mean, we're talking thousands of years, some of these families. And according to him, they very much would partake in these rituals where oftentimes younger children were involved. They have their ways of getting them, and that, they could do these things and basically get away with it. It
Mhm.
seems really far-fetched, but what he explained, and his name was Jay Parker. He's still around, actually. Really nice guy. And Jay Parker mentioned a couple of communities, Arden, Delaware, and Rose Valley, Pennsylvania, in particular. And he mentioned that these communities, in particular, that he knew of and was very familiar with, had, in his estimation, around a 90 percentile of multi-generational Illuminati families that were involved with this stuff to some degree or another. This sounded so far-fetched to me that I said, okay. After the podcast, I talked to him and I said, Jay, I'm going to book a flight. I'm going to come out. Will you tell me where to go, what to look for? He said, yeah, but just be aware, in these tightly knit old communities, don't call the police if you see something, because they're in it too. And everybody's in it. So what was explained to me is that as a front, these families will very much be a part of things like the PTA. There'll be a football coach. There'll be the leader of a church. I won't get into denominations, but it doesn't really matter. They would do all these things up front in the community and be very engaged in the community.
Uh-huh.
But behind the scenes, they would very much be doing what they've always done as a multi-generational Illuminati satanic family. And they would have these really interesting familiars, these demons, if you want to call them that. And they would call them familiars because they would attach themselves to this family. And that's why it's multi-generational. They would continue this stuff to keep that demon or that familiar spirit with them, because they didn't want it to get tired and move on to some other family, and to keep it fed with the things that they would do. And it
Mhm.
got really dark. And one of the places he told me to go, I went, and I just kind of parked my car and stayed overnight. And sure enough, right around the time frame that he said something would happen, it happened. I saw something that blew my mind. And everything he said basically checked out. He told me one particular neighborhood to check things out, where they had, in the back of these estates, these massive they looked like open air fireplaces. And these things were basically designed very old, in many cases, very massive, made of stone. And they were designed to get rid of any evidence. But they were also, he said, people will just say that they're to get rid of garbage. And he said, in their minds, they're not lying. So I saw those, and I stopped along the way at some spots where he said it's very likely, if you park your car in these areas, you will be ushered off by someone. And even though it's perfectly illegal to park there, I had my real estate cards with me. I said I was looking at property. And no, sure enough, I would park, I would get out of the car, and everything he said came true. Uh, you know, a random car with a woman driving a station wagon would stop. It looked like a soccer mom, and she'd come out and start yelling at me and say, "Get out of here. What are you doing?" And I'd say, "Hey, I'm just looking at this for real estate purposes." And she'd say, "No, you better leave, or I'm going to call someone." And you don't run into this everywhere. And I'm familiar with that. So pretty scary encounter, but beyond a shadow of doubt, in my mind, it again was proven.
Mhm. Mhm. Other evidence is a couple things I want to quickly say. One is some super famous people who look like they're 20 and they're in their 90s. I mean, how the heck are they doing that? There's nobody that can do that unless they're using something. I don't know what, sorcery or the blood of children. I've heard of wealthy people, billionaires, where they will actually hire people who they don't kill them. They are given good lives, but they have to donate, a pint of blood every so often for the other person. And then what happens is they have all those fresh antibodies and growth hormones and all those things that make them younger. And but another thing I was going to say that supports what you said, Ryan, is I had a fella on my show who helps people recover from satanic ritual abuse. And he was saying that it starts before they're born, where they have someone who is like, I don't know, a high priestess or whatever, comes into the home and does ceremony on the mother who's about to give birth, that binds the demon to the child throughout its life. So that supports what you just said. And then as they go through life, there's these horribly traumatic experiences that I don't really want to get into too much detail with today. People can do their own research, and that further binds the family together and feeds the demon. And I'm going to have him back on my show. I can't remember his name off the top of my head, but he was very, very interesting and, uh, very interesting guest. Another thing I want to throw out there too is, how all of the fairy tales used to be really gruesome, and then they watered them all down, and the story of Hansel and Gretel and all these different stories. I have a hunch. This is just a hunch. I have no information from any source to support it, but it's a hunch that maybe those who are of the parasite class or the Illuminati or whatever you want to call them, maybe they are the ones who were perpetrating the crimes against families and children. And even Jack the Ripper, there was some idea that he may have been someone of a very high station. And so I think it's interesting that the powers that be want us to be afraid of ET and afraid of all these other things. Meanwhile, maybe they're the ones that we should be afraid of. What's your thought, Ryan?
I think very much these tales, like Hansel and Gretel, is a great example. Be careful what cabin in the woods you wander into, because
Mm-hmm.
there could be, and movies like Hocus Pocus, and this silly allegation that these dark adepts are eating children. And why are they sharing these silly allegations time and time again throughout the ages? And I think there's a reason. It's because there is a potential issue with dark practicing magicians, and even just people who are demonically possessed, and
Mm-hmm.
this type of behavior. I mean, you look at Jeffrey Dahmer, you look at John Wayne Gacy, you look at, there's a number of people that, for lack of a better word, there's no way a human being alone would want to engage in that type of activity. There has to be, they've got some evil training wheels, they've got some demonic attachments. And I think it's really interesting that you mentioned the demonic attachments at birth, where these sorcerers do that for these multi-generational SRA families, because it was, at least in my mind, by the work of Aleister Crowley, well proven through the debauchery and other things that he did, that we all basically get assigned or given a guardian angel out of the box. And he did his very mightiest, tried his hardest to fulfill his true will. He tried to kind of shake this guardian angel, and he said he tried everything, things that were repulsive to even him, to see if he could shake this guardian angel, to see if he could do his own true will. And this thing just wouldn't let go. Like, it was like their job, like, while you're alive, my job is to protect you and guide you to the light, essentially. And so it doesn't surprise me at all that pre-birth they would start trying to remove that and attach a darker entity to these kids.
Mm-hmm. Yep, absolutely. So another thing I want to just touch on briefly of the old school, I just want to say quick hi, sorry to Pat, Denise, Kristen, Helena, Daryl. Welcome everybody. Thank you so much for joining us. Out of the old school cryptids, there was also what they called Wolfman, and there's been a lot of research done on that, and some experts or historians claim that it was the ergotamine, which was growing on the rye, because they were not allowed to have the nice refined wheat that the elite class or the parasite class got to eat. They had to eat, dark rye. And there was an ergotamine is a mold that grows on it, and that produced the same exact thing as LSD. And so there could have been, cycles of ergotamine that people were eating to imagine the werewolf, or there might have been werewolves. Like, I don't really know. Ryan, have you heard of any evidence supporting? I know there's anecdotal evidence, but are there really people who have seen Wolfman or Dogman? And do you think they're kind of in cahoots with Bigfoot and other cryptids that may work together, since they all seem to have this paranormal psychic ability?
Absolutely. And this is another one that 100%, I could tell you tale after tale of people in the southwestern United States and in and around the Uinta Basin of Utah that have seen dogmen, skinwalkers, things that appear to be werewolves, for lack of a better word. I mean, these are all just different names for something that is not supposed to exist, right? Either, a dog man. I mean, the most blatant is, and fascinating to me, is when they run up on vehicles and peer in at the drivers. That happens, especially on these lonely back roads. And the road that goes right in front of a property we do a ton of research at, called Space Wolf Research, the neighbors have seen these things and have, called us and told us that they've seen these things on the property. They've seen these things behind their vehicles. One very prominent individual in the area, a businessman, actually ran into one, allegedly, according to him, ruined his brand new truck, got out. It was gone, but he saw what he saw before he hit it. And I've had instances where I've seen things that I can't explain, and so have others.
Mm-hmm.
So in my opinion, I think that's another one where if you're in the right place at the right time, you're going to see it. And the local native law enforcement, the Bureau of Indian Affairs, my favorite saying that they've told me is, it's not a matter of if you're going to see something, but when.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I've also heard accounts by people who have worked for park services and things like that, and they can't explain it. And this is where things seem to be tied into the American military as well, where these big trucks will show up and there'll be all kinds of law enforcement or agents. They won't let anyone within an area. You can't go there. But these huge trucks are rolling in there and then out again, and there's like something so super strong pounding on the walls of the box on the back of the truck. Like, nobody knows what's going on. So what adds to the confusion is, what about all the genetic experiments they're doing with chimeras? God only knows what. But I know one thing: I wouldn't want to be a cryptid or an ET, which might also be a cryptid, and get picked up by, the American military or something, because I'm sure what they have to undergo is pretty horrendous. Before we move on to some of the more modern cryptids, Ryan, do you have anything else you want to add to the mix here today?
Yeah, you mentioned something interesting, which is these chimeras. And after a talk I gave, myself and another gentleman named Alien Dave from the Utah UFO Hunters, he's the founder, we gave a talk in Salt Lake, and we were talking about the Uinta Basin of Utah and some of these strange things. And two gentlemen came up to us who worked for let's just say a company that works with genetics. They're in Salt Lake, out of a place called Research Park. There's a number of companies, so I'm not pinpointing them, but you don't have to do much homework to figure out who these guys are. And they said they do a number of tests on animals. And these guys said that there were some dogs that they had in the back of a truck. Reminds me of what you said. It's just eerie. And the place that they were sent to get rid of these dogs, to basically put them down, was up in the Uinta Basin of Utah, because there was nobody around. You could just go out into the high desert, and they had a couple of shotguns. And so they had these dogs, and they said some of them still had like tubes hanging out of them. They didn't look normal. And they basically said that when they went to let these dogs out, a few of them got away. And so, yeah, some of these things may be man-made. It's difficult to say for sure, but that was a great, I just had to throw that in there after what you mentioned.
Yeah, no, thank you. That was awesome. So moving into more common times, there's been all kinds of creatures washing up on the shore, not too far from Plum Island, where I understand they did chimera and different kinds of experiments like that. And they're very easy to find on the internet. I don't have them here, but they've got beaks and claws and human bodies and God knows what. And so there's that. And then another thing that's becoming more popular is people are seeing what I would call a mermaid or a merman. There's all kinds of footage that's very brief that shows humans pulling the merman or mermaid, I don't know, fishtail human body out of the water and put them on a stretcher, taking them somewhere. There's been accounts of people who've been at these weird Illuminati parasite class dinners where they've actually been served, not just humans, but they've been served mermaids and mermen. And then we also hear, and this is where, again, it overlaps with the whole ET thing, of very high officials in the last few weeks have come out and said, are you kidding? We know for a fact that there are vehicles the size of a football stadium that are traveling, I think he said the equivalent of about 300 miles an hour under water. So there's these vast communities of what we would call cryptids, I'm guessing. And nobody really knows what's going on, but there's folklore of mermaids and mermen over the last 1,000 years. Ryan, do you know anything about that type of cryptid?
Not a lot. I wouldn't call myself an expert on it. I just know many of the stories and examples that people have told me. And it makes sense that if there's things above ground, that there would be things below ground and in the water and below the water's surface. And if you remember, and this is a story that I followed, I got a bunch of information from people that had boots on the ground in Florida, and I kind of debunked the story, but then more information came out, and I think I unfairly debunked it. And that was all of that big hoopla at the mall in Miami, I believe it was. And they had all these police show up, and people claimed they saw demons or some kinds of entities. And it's very interesting because this mall area is right there near the ocean, like right by it, actually, right across the street. And they didn't really tell you this. And there has been a long history in Florida of, well, cults that call upon entities or demons from the waters to come to them. And this is interesting because this is right around the same location where this happened. And, It was whatever happened was a big deal. And at first I debunked it pretty quickly. Some people came out and probably faked some stuff, and it debunked it. But as usual, as time went on, even some whistleblowers from within the government came out and said, no, there was some more to this event. And it makes me wonder. Anyway, but yeah, I think that you can call upon these things out of the waters, out of the oceans. We all know about the Leviathan in the days of the apocalypse coming out of the Bible. That thing comes out of the ocean or the waters, and so it's interesting. And depending on the culture you're from, in Utah, the prevalent culture used to be, when I grew up there as a kid, everybody was LDS or Mormon or Latter-day Saints. And when these missionaries would go to other countries, they were told not to bathe in any of the waters because the devil had control of the waters and demons could attach themselves to them. Again, not necessarily my belief system, but I think, wherever there's smoke, there's fire, and every belief system has its merits. And it's interesting. It's a very interesting deal with water and what it might hold, I think you're muted. I can't hear you.
Oh, I am. Now can you hear me? I'm sorry. I wanted just to take a moment and play a very short promotion for a product. I'm having a sale that ends when stock runs out or the end of November. While I'm doing that, do you want to think about what your favorite cryptid is, or do you want to talk about your cryptid experiences on your property or whatever? Love to hear about it as soon as we come back. So hang on, folks. We'll be right back. Are you looking for the perfect, unique seasonal gift? Check out Zendome's Orgonite. They are my unique brand of orgone generators, and they are affordable, ethically sourced, handmade, and double charged for maximum effect. They are only available through my website, KarenHoltonHealthCoach.com. These beautiful devices are simple compounds which balance ambient energy by converting negative energy and EMF into positive healing energy with many easily confirmed health benefits. They help diminish the harmful effects of negative energies and EMF by attracting and converting them, retuning them into new and more healthful sound and light wave patterns. They also produce orgone energy, which is also known as chi, prana, zero point, and life force. And you can use these devices for focusing the mind, healing, meditation, and for spiritual growth. Zendome's Orgonite are my unique brand of orgone generators, and they are only available through my website. Don't be fooled by imitations. Check out my website to see my latest selection at KarenHoltonHealthCoach.com. That's KarenHolton Healthcoach.com. Check them out today. And we're back. I'm just going to quickly go back to the comments. Oh, Tennessee, Kentucky Bigfoot. Hey, all. Let's see what he has to say. Hey, all. Good to catch the show. Daryl, Denise, Kristen, Pat, Helena, Karen, and Ryan. Lovely to see you. Thank you so much for making the time to come and stop in today. So we're talking about cryptids. I did a little play on words. Unencrypted cryptids. Unencrypted means it's not gone through any process. It's just raw and the way it is. And I thought that would be a good word to attach to cryptids. We can turn them into anything we want, but I actually am just trying to get to sort of a little bit of background on what are they, where do they come from? And Ryan, I know you've had some interesting experiences. Back in the chat earlier on, I didn't put it on the screen yet, was you were talking about your experience with a group of people, and you more or less ran into into Bigfoot, and someone in here, trying to find the chat here. Okay, well, I'll just have to say it. Someone in here asked if you were able to get any pictures, because you had mentioned that you had a helmet with cameras and things like that. But I also wondered if you want to talk a bit about what's your favorite cryptid or personal experience, or wherever you want to take it would be awesome, Ryan.
Great question. And, because I and my other people had to sign non-disclosure agreements, which this organization does often, and they have a ton of information and data, uh, lots of information. It's great that Tennessee, Kentucky Bigfoot is in here. That's great. And, I would say that some of my favorite cryptids are the ones that bleed over into other things. And Bigfoot is one of those, because you hear stories all the time about things like Bigfoot and UAP or UFO interactions. Or on the actual expedition we were on, there was a father and son that saw blue orbs near this same location, and they were dismissed at the time, but I didn't dismiss it. I thought there's something here. And Bigfoot is even involved in strange stories like the Montauk Project. And, there's a lot of bleed over on some of these things, because if they are in fact crypto-terrestrials or cryptids, they're going to be something that shouldn't exist, and we shouldn't know why they exist or how they exist. And they're able to sort of materialize, dematerialize, in different scenarios, let's say. And what I mean by that is you hear a really great story I heard was of a Bigfoot screaming in the Uinta Mountains. This is from somebody I trust very much. Bigfoot yell in the Uinta Mountains. And I actually just had a very, very prominent researcher send me some audio from California that sounds amazing. But yeah, you can hear this Bigfoot, and these people that saw it said that they saw craft going in that direction, UFOs, for lack of a better word, going in that direction, and almost as if to engage with the Bigfoot. And it was dark, and one of the people lit a lighter. And when they lit this lighter, these objects saw the lighter and changed their course. But yeah, you run into this often, these creatures that can show up at different times, and you hear about it all the time. They show up at the same places, the same scenarios, the same types of conditions. And Bigfoot is one of my favorites, because he just kind of doesn't seem to care, and he'll show up anywhere, it seems like.
Yeah, yeah, he does. Now I have another theory, and it's not even a good theory, but I'm going to throw it out there anyway, since we're covering all kinds of wacky and wonderful things today. And that is, I recently saw a documentary that talked about the parasite class. Now, these are made up of all different families. We know about Rockefellers, Rothschilds, and there's more. There's many, many, many more families. And what they have all done in common is they have incestuous relationships, so they can keep the wealth and the prosperity and everything within their small little group. But then the researcher from the show said, what's interesting is they have a terrifically high number of their offspring who are extremely physically mutated or mentally deficient. And what they do is they will put them in an estate someplace with a basic staff who looks after them, but their names are actually erased from the history. So you can't even find out who they were born to, how long they lived, what their life was like. You can find out nothing about them. So I'm not saying that cryptids are these deformed children from um, all of the incestuous relationships as they try to keep themselves separate from the common people. But it does make you wonder where, and the other thing is, this was not a rare occurrence. This happens a lot in families. And who knows, maybe these families are all originating from one family. But what are they doing with all these defective people? We even know that the English monarchy had all kinds of kids locked away in mental institutions and stuff because of the constant inbreeding. Anyway, I'm not saying that Bigfoot is the child of incestuous parasite class families. Because Bigfoot's seen everywhere and all through time, but some of them maybe got out, got loose, whatever, and they've been erased from history. And I just thought that was another interesting tidbit just to throw into the mix.
Well, you're not, as usual, you're not 100% off, because there are magical practices and rituals that demand the incestuous acts be taken. As an example, if you look at what it takes to be a skinwalker, allegedly, and this stuff's written down by a number of anthropologists who have studied this type of magic, which involves a lot of necromancy, believe it or not, a lot of grave robbing. You have to give one of your own, preferably a sibling. You have to kill them, kind of like to ante up to start entering these initiation processes. And one of the rituals that is demanded is incest. And the reason, and I believe it's not dissimilar from the parasite class, because these demons want to destroy anything of beauty in these families. And when it comes to the family unit, how better to do that than incest right off the bat? And so I believe that these demons, many of these ancient demons go back as far as Mesopotamia and allegedly have followed these families forward. And the reason I say that is there was a really interesting story about a gentleman named John Alexander Lawson, who was basically a serial killer. And he got caught, but he had changed his name to the name of his familiar demon, which he claimed was Pazuzu. And they locked him up, and he was in prison, and he would give little offerings to this demon at the correct times throughout the month and the year. And one particular time he said, I've got nothing. Like, I don't even have whatever, a pack of gum. I'm making that up, but I don't have anything to offer this demon. And he was calling to the prison guards, please just give me something to offer this demon or he's going to take me. And eerily, they found him dead in the morning with like catastrophic wounds that they don't believe he was able to inflict upon himself. And that demon, Pazuzu, was an ancient Mesopotamian demon that has been following families and people for generations. So yeah, I think that all this dark stuff, there's more to it than meets the eye. Don't just think that you're watching Hocus Pocus and, oh, that's funny that the witches want to eat a kid. What a silly belief system. No, there's probably something to it.
Absolutely. I can remember, excuse me, when I was pregnant and due to give birth to my daughter, and somebody who was a friend of a friend, not really my friend, but I knew she was very active in witchcraft. And I know that most witchcraft is just Wicca and different kind of ritual based or goddess based worship. It's not all demonic per se. But anyway, this woman would phone me every day and ask me if I'd had my baby yet. And it freaked me out so damn bad that I ended up having her 3 weeks late because she was due just before Halloween. And I ended up having her November 16th. So it was kind of like my body went, no way, making my baby available. I don't even know if that's what this woman wanted, but I'm just saying she phoned me every day. Did you have your baby yet? And it freaked me right out. Oh, Denise, thank you so much. She says, thank you, Karen. Love when Ryan comes in. Me too. Thank you so much for the super chat. I appreciate you so much. Please don't feel like you have to donate to me all the time. You've been extremely lovely that way, and I really appreciate it. But I just want to make sure everybody has enough for themselves. And if you're struggling in any way, please, I do not expect donations. Of course, love it when I get them. It really helps the show a lot. It helps me a lot. Certainly reduces my stress on how I'm going to pay for all my expenses. But yeah, I just want to say thank you very much, Denise. Unexpected and truly appreciated. And even Kristen says, thank you, Denise. Yes, you're a lovely group. Absolutely lovely. Well, we have a few more minutes left. And is there anything that those in the live chat would like Ryan to talk about? Or should we just carry on? Ryan, do you want to, we got about 10 minutes left. Do you want to talk a little bit about the cryptid that you saw on your property? I know we covered it when Gary and you were taking over my show for me while I was away. And I can refer people back to that video. But do you want to talk a little bit about your own personal cryptid? That was the weirdest thing I ever saw.
Yeah, I think you're talking about kind of the chupacabra looking one.
Yeah, very dog-like, but no fur. It was very weird.
Right. Yeah, those are very strange. And it's always great. I mean, it's great to see things, but it's always great when you have some video evidence because there's so many just stories, right? And I appreciate
Mhm.
the stories because I realize you can't always get video evidence, but when we do, oh man, that's a bonus. And yeah, there are very much creatures that don't appear to be normally in the area. Whether that's tropical birds that we see there at Space Wolf Research or strange, almost ancient looking animals we've caught. Um, and oftentimes we'll get actual. Well, I'll show you one. I've got something here. A tooth from what is believed to be a dire wolf, and
Oh, wow, it's huge.
yeah, it's huge. And this one's cleaned up. We've gotten a few of these, um, quite a few actually. We've gotten full skulls. We've gotten what appears to be almost like warthog creatures, which aren't in the area, and a number of others. Wolves, of course, are not supposed to even be in the area, but they're seen often. We know that they're there, even though technically they're not supposed to exist. We see them. We've gotten images of them.
Mhm.
We've found carcasses of them. But yeah, you'll find stuff all the time that just doesn't make sense. And among the wild things that have been seen in the area, canines are at the top of the list. Various canines, whether they are more along the lines of a wolf or a dire wolf, or it just seems as if a lot of the dark practitioners of the type of magic that is assumed to be taking place in that area prefer to take the shape, if they are shapeshifters, prefer to take the shape of something canine because,
Mhm.
traditionally foxes, jackals, wolves, they have this intimacy with tricksterism, and they
Mhm.
seem to be able to kind of like Bigfoot, kind of be right there and you don't see them. The
Mhm.
fox is known to be able to slyly move around just in the shadows and you don't see them. And interestingly, with a lot of these demons, even these older Mesopotamian demons, when you look at how they were described, I mean, we get things like this, you know,
Yes.
you get a dog head in a man's body in Egypt, or you get even the case of Pazuzu, the demon that this prisoner claimed had a hold on him. It was depicted as a hybrid creature as well, often with a lion or a dog's head and a human
Hmm.
body. So it makes you wonder why all this hybridization, why all this, I mean, literally shapeshifters. So I don't know. I think
Hmm.
there's something to it all.
Oh, I think there has to be something to it because there are probably dozens of accounts now of truck drivers driving along and hear this being that has like a human body that can run super fast, but definitely a dog head. And it sometimes even catches up, even though the truck driver's got it floored, it still catches up with him and looks him in the eye. And one guy had a pistol and he shot it right in the face a couple of times. But there's been tons, or people get to where they're going and the back of their truck is all lacerated with something with super strong, so there's enough, I would say, secondary proof that these are absolutely real. Now, we're coming close to the end of the show, and I just want to very quickly again thank Kristen so much for your donation, and I also really want to thank Denise. So I just want to make sure I give you guys lots of love, and I appreciate you so very, very much. So, are there any final questions from the live chat? And while we're waiting, how about Ryan? Anything else you want to add about cryptids? And then do you want to tell us what's going on at Space Wolf? What's going on with Hero Paranormal? You have the most interesting life I've ever seen. I watch a lot of your shows. I don't always comment, but I definitely leave a like. And yeah, I really appreciate your content so very much.
Thank you so much. And thanks for having me on, Karen. Yeah, I just want to, kind of nail it home that these things are nothing new. These things have been discussed that we know of, written down. These cryptid creatures since the 8th century BCE. People have been talking about animals and entities that don't seem compatible with our reality, hybrid creatures. And I mean, we all this time of year love to get into like the werewolves, Dracula. All these things come from real, these are tales that come from real events, one way or another, whether it's Vlad the Impaler, who,
Mhm.
go figure, the monarchy is related to, or whether it's stories of, werewolves in the forest, beasts that you couldn't tell if it was a man or a wolf. These things, it's pretty fascinating. But yeah, this is nothing new. And this time of year, it's kind of celebrated. It's a little bit fun, but just be aware that there's some truth to it.
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah. Yeah. Well, when I was younger, I wasn't afraid of anything. And then as I got older, it's not that I'm afraid, but I would not even go walking the streets of the city I live in at night. If it isn't one thing, it's something else. Better just to stay, safe at home. So that's about it for the show. Ryan, tell people where they can find you
You bet.
and maybe a couple topics, what you've been addressing lately on your wonderful show, Hero Paranormal. And then we'll close out the show for today. I want to thank you, Ryan, for being here. I want to thank everyone in the live chat. You really, really enhance the show. And I appreciate each and every one of you. Of course, thank you so much for the super chats. Helps me out a lot. For those of you who are not yet channel members, please consider, and I'm thinking of having my members on as a panel maybe next month or maybe in December, and get you guys to tell me all about you. And I thought it would make a very interesting episode. So, but I'm going to make it members only. No disrespect for those who are not members. I know not everyone can afford it, but I thought for special treat for those of you who are members and do donate regularly, I'd love to give you the platform, let you come on and share your stuff with us. Anyway, Ryan, yes, where can people find you?
You bet. And really quick, I'm going to just do a really quick pitch. I know you already kind of showed it, but the stuff that Karen makes is absolutely gorgeous. And I just wanted to show it like in live camera, just how beautiful this stuff is. If you guys haven't seen it before, it's absolutely amazing. Best quality. And also, as I wrap up, since Halloween's this week, I wanted to remind everybody that, what is it that kids say when they come to the door? They say trick or treat. And people often just think of the treat. Oh, give them a treat. But they forget about the trick. And that used to be a threat of mischief. Like literally, don't make us show you what we can show you. Instead, just give us a treat. So remember that those ancient customs come from somewhere. And you can find me on YouTube or on social media at Hero Paranormal. You can also just go to heroparanormal.com. I'm on Instagram, Facebook, and you can find also Space Wolf Research on those, or you can just go to spacewolfresearch.com.
Wonderful, wonderful. So thank you again, Ryan. Always a good show. We have so many interesting things to say. I love talking to you. It's just been an absolute pleasure. It's too bad Gary couldn't make it to the show today. I don't know, something came up. I did not want to press him for the reason. That seems kind of rude. But if he says he can make it, he can. And if he can't, he can't. And that's just how it goes. But anyway, I want to thank everybody for joining us today. And on Sunday, I'm having Kevin Michael Estrella back, and we're going to talk about his other ET experiences on Aliens and Angels on Sunday. He's been on before. We've talked about his experiences with the Ponte. So speaking of cryptids, some of these ET groups have been here for thousands of years, and we're just now sort of discovering them. But I wonder whose world it really is, theirs, or ours, or maybe we just got to share. I don't know. But I want to thank everybody for being here. Please share this with your friends. Please throw me a like. I would really appreciate it. And we'll see you next time on the Aliens and Angels podcast, which is on Sunday. And thank you again, Ryan, so much for being here. Always a treat. Thank you for joining me for the Quantum Guide Show. Become the change that you wish to see in the world. Subscribe to my YouTube and other channels at Karen Holton TV. Click the like button, leave me a comment, and share this podcast with your friends. Read about my true life ET contact in my book called Transdimensional: Meet the New Neighbors, which is now available in Amazon bookstores worldwide. Check out my website at www.KarenHoltonHealthCoach.com to see my free resources and amazing products and services. All the links will be in the description below. As part of the Forbidden Knowledge Network, you will find the Quantum Guide Show with Karen Holton and also the Aliens and Angels podcast on all audio platforms. Until next time, keep up the good work.